Okay, so for this passage, we're going to be reading pages 18 to 30. I'm just going to answer these questions since I'm starting to see that this is quite dense. So please make sure you're reading these pages, answer the questions, and then when you're done, you can do one of the following. You will write an opinion, but you can do it in a form of a summary, written, record a video, or create a comic. It's your choice. And then create some kind of artwork, because we've been reading a lot about art and how Da Vinci approached it. So here's our question for page 18. What key details explain Da Vinci's approach to painting landscapes? So we're thinking about, we'll use our highlighter. What key details explain? We're looking for Da Vinci's approach to painting landscapes. So how did he approach painting landscapes? Keep this ready. As Da Vinci believed it was important for artists to paint landscapes as accurately as possible. In order to do this, he focused on the science behind the art. He studied the elements of the landscape paintings, such as sun, trees, leaves, and color. He observed how the sun hits the leaves, how leaves change color, and how leaves grow based on their position on the tree. Da Vinci also examined how landscapes changed based on weather conditions such as wind, water, mist, and clouds. So, some key details. He studied the elements of landscape paintings. Okay, and these are all things that are elements of the landscape paintings. He also examined how landscapes change. Okay, so those are two elements from the first paragraph. Let's write them down. What key details? He studied the elements of landscape paintings. He examined how landscapes change. Okay, let's keep reading to see some more. Again, I'm going to keep this open so I can easily write. He spent much of his time sketching leaves, trees, and flowers from different angles and in different light. Da Vinci was interested in why and how plants from a single variety differed from the others. Historians believe that Da Vinci drew hundreds of plant illustrations, with only 13 genuine plant drawings remain, along with a few other sketches. So we're thinking again about him, his approach to painting landscapes. He was interested in why and how plants from single varieties differed. So how did plants differ? Whoopsies. How did plants differ from each other? Okay. So this section includes Da Vinci's observations on how to accurately imagine and paint landscape elements, including trees, the sun, wind, and the clouds. So let's think. So he's interested in why. He was interested in why and how plants from a single variety differed from the other. So he had a very inquisitive approach to drawing and to art. He wasn't just like, I'm just going to draw today. He thought about these things. It wasn't random. It starts on page 22, and we will be going there for them. So what context clues help you as a reader understand the meaning of deceive? Take a look. Reflections on water. Painters often deceive themselves. Let me just highlight that real quick so we know where it is. By representing water in which they make the water reflect the object seen by the man. So this gets very confusing, so pay attention. But the water reflects the object from one side and the man sees it from the other. And it happens that the painter sees an object from below, and thus one and the same object is seen from hind part before and upside down, because the water shows the image of the object in one way and the eye sees it in another. So what's happening is the water, you can't really, it's hard to paint water. So what painters do is they paint, let's get rid of this because I'm tired of looking at that. They paint what the water is reflecting so that way we can see it's water. Okay, so let's take a look. Remember, the question is what context clues help us understand what the word deceive means? So that painters often deceive themselves. And then how? Representing water in which they make the water reflect the object seen by the man. Okay, so this tells me this isn't the case. Okay, They deceive themselves by representing water in which they make the water reflect the objects seen by the man. But that's not the case. But, see, look, the next sentence. So let's highlight that. The water reflects the object from one side, and the man sees it from the other. Okay? So that's very important. So the object, the water reflects object from one side, and the man sees it from the other. So water is just like a mirror. So it reflects what it sees or what hits it based on light. And we see that reflection. So that's how we are deceiving ourselves. So deceiving means to fool. But helps us understand the meaning of deceive. Well, let's use representing water in which they make the water reflect the objects seen by the man, right? But that's not the case, right? And then the next sentence goes on to tell the rest of that. So now we go to the next question, which supports the inference that Da Vinci believed the process of painting. So listen, he believed the process of painting was more rewarding than the recognition received for the finished product. So he's saying that how do we know, based on the next paragraph, the next section, that Da Vinci believed that the actual process was more rewarding than receiving recognition or someone telling you this is so good, on how a man should not trust his memory entirely. Any master who should venture to boast that he could remember all the forms and effects of nature would certainly appear to me to be graced with extreme ignorance, inasmuch as these effects are infinite and our memory is not extensive enough to retain them. Hence, O painter, beware lest the lust of gain should supplant you in the dignity of art. Okay, stop. Lest the lust of gain, so this means that the desire to gain should supplant or get in the way of the dignity of art, or the joy that you get from completing doing art. Okay, so this is saying beware, so be aware that the lust of gain, so the desire to get more, should supplant or should replace the dignity of art. For the acquisition of glory is much greater thing than the glory of riches. Okay, stop again. The acquisition, so so getting glory, so getting that glory is much greater than glory of riches. So than the things that you get from glory. Okay. Hence, for these and other reasons which might be given, first strive in drawing to represent your intention to the eye by expressive forms and the idea originally formed in your imagination. Stop. For these and other reasons which might be given, so moving on, first strive in drawing, so you want to draw to represent what you want, your intent to the eye. So first try to draw what you want it to be, and the idea originally formed in your imagination. Okay, so first make it what you want. Then go on taking out, putting in until you've satisfied yourself. So you need to be satisfied in what you made, not somebody else. So there's a few different writings that I noted here. Until you have satisfied yourself was the last thing. Alrighty, really. Okay. The acquisition of glory is a much greater thing than glory of riches. So trying, so believe the process, so those two things right there. Okay, let's put it down. The acquisition of glory is a much greater thing than the glory of riches. That's one. And then the last one was the last. Until you have satisfied yourself. Okay, it's just saying you should be doing the work for yourself, your process, and not just getting the recognition. The last question, page 26 and 27. What key details help you as a reader understand the factors Da Vinci took into account when he designed palaces? Here we are, 26, 27. Remember, I already have the question here. And look, constructing palaces is this whole section, so let's read that. The palace of the prince must have a piazza in front of it. And look, if you click on it, piazza, it tells you how to say it. Houses intended for dancing or any kind of jumping or any other movement with a multitude of people must be on the ground floor, for I have already witnessed the destruction of some, causing death to many persons. And above all, let every good wall, be it ever so thin, rest on the ground or on arches with a good foundation. Let the mezzanines of the dwelling be divided by walls made of very thin bricks, and without wood on account of fire. Let the privies have ventilation by shafts in the thickness of the walls, so as to exhale by the roofs. The mezzanines should be vaulted, and the vaults should be stronger in proportion as they are in small size. The privies must be numerous and going one into the other, in order that the stench may not penetrate into the dwellings, and all the other doors must shut off themselves with counterpoises. The main division of the facade of this palace is into two portions. That is to say, the width of a courtyard must be half the whole facade. Okay, so now we're thinking, what key details help you as a reader understand the factors Da Vinci took into account? So let's go through all the different things he talked about. It must have a piazza. Okay, let's have a piazza. So now we look at houses. Houses, where should houses be? Must be on the ground floor. Okay. Above all, let every wall rest on the ground or on arches. Okay. The mezzanines be divided by walls made of very thin bricks. All the privies have ventilation by shafts. The mezzanines should be vaulted. See what I'm doing? Privies must be numerous. Main division into two portions. So now we have all these different ideas that he thought about. So we'll start one by one. That must have a piazza in front of it. Houses must be on the ground floor. Every wall rests on the ground or on arches. Okay, so I'm just going through each facade. Of these. The mezzanines, let me write on this side now. The mezzanines of the dwellings be divided by walls all the privies have ventilation. The mezzanines should be vaulted. The privies must be numerous. The main division of the facade of this palace is into two portions. And then that is it. Okay, so you have all of your questions answered. So remember, you can answer these questions. This is what I'd like to think about. If Leonardo da Vinci lived today, would we admire everything he did? Or would we think, not a big deal? So write your opinion in this assignment called Leonardo Opinion. You can write a summary of this. You can record a video, create a comic. You choose. Also, make some kind of artwork. Thanks.